Hey everyone, James Reeves. This is a very special treat. I'm fangirling out a little bit.
That feels almost a little awkward, but we'll go for it.
Yeah, this is Nathan Merz. For those of you who don't know, Nathan is, I would say, and he's a modest guy, so he's not necessarily going to cop to this, one of the most knowledgeable individuals when it comes to Porsche in the entire world. I've watched your videos for years. I love your content. I've told you guys, if you watch the video about my 993, where I say it is the only video on YouTube that I have watched from end to end, the how to buy a 993 or the buyer's guide. It was over 2 hours long, and I watched every single second of it. So it's an honor to have you. Thank you for having me.
I love having you out. I'm thrilled to have you here. More than anything, I'm passionate about Porsche. I'm passionate about the cars, I'm passionate about the people and the history. And if I can share it and we can talk a little bit about getting people into their first Porsche, I'm all about that.
That is the exact subject of this video, because people think about Porsche. And by the way, you know, again, you guys know my Porsche joke. We say Porsche because, you know, it was the man's last name. So that is, we're not being snooty assholes about it. But if you want to say Porsche, you say Porsche. I'm not going to stop you. But we're going to say Porsche. And it's cool. But what we're talking about is, if you did want to get into Porsche, everyone thinks it's like, oh man, I'm gonna have to spend $100,000 or $200,000. No, not at all. You can actually get a really good car, like a really nice, cool car with some soul to it, for not a heck of a lot of money. We're talking sub $50,000, well under $50,000. Right now, I wanna know the cheapest possible Porsche that I can get without making a mistake.
Okay, this is going to be a tough one.
I know.
But a couple
But you're the guy.
caveats
You're the guy for the job.
I want to throw out there is this is an important topic to me, because Porsches didn't used to be sort of out of reach of the masses. They've never been inexpensive cars, but they were attainable to mere mortals. And one of the things that breaks my heart is some of the stuff is no longer obtainable to mortals. And I'll be as honest as I can be. It's not as much fun for me to do my job when I deal with people at a certain echelon than it is just the regular enthusiast who likes the cars, maybe wants to work on it themselves. They're not buying a status piece. They're buying, again, the story, the engineering, the history, the driving. And so this is one of the reasons I had you out. This is the kind of topic I'm excited about, talking to someone who's interested. One of the first mistakes people almost always make when they enter the Porsche brand and they're trying to get in for the first time, or they're trying to be at a budget, which is wonderful. I bought my first Porsche on a budget, is they oftentimes think about the initial purchase price. And the initial purchase price is almost like there's a no man's land for any given Porsche, whatever the model is, where you don't want to spend below a certain number because you reach a floor. Every car has a floor value. And so once you get to that floor value, it gets pretty bleak.
I'm putting you on the spot right now. What is the floor?
So we'll start as low as $10,000, 10, 20.
I thought 10,000 was going to be no man's land, but it sounds like there's
not
man's
no man's
there.
land.
It's man's land.
However, think of this as like joining a country club. So you're going to have your initial purchase, and then you're going to have your dues. And as long as you go into it with that mindset, you'll do fine. One of the things that's nice about all the cars we're going to be talking about is they're all perfectly balanced. So mid-engine, front engine, rear transaxle. So perfect weight balance. So this is heretical to say this because I am an avowed 911 person. These cars, for most people, truly handle better. So we can wander over here if that's okay. So essentially what I tell people, if you want to enter the Porsche sports car market, the first decision you really need to make is, do I want a classic Porsche experience, or do I want a more modern Porsche experience? And so really those decisions at the lower end of the market could kind of devolve into either of these. You could go 914 if you want a more traditional classic Porsche experience. That would be a start. Or if you want a more modern Porsche experience, a 986 Boxster. So we're not just talking industry speak. The 914 Porsche made from 1970 until 1976, and that was Porsche's entry-level model here in the US. They are mid-engine with a removable Targa top. This is what they look like. They were built in conjunction with Volkswagen at the time. So that's a 914. I can go on for days about what's wonderful about those cars. The 986 Boxster is the first generation. This is Porsche's introduction of this car. Came to the US in 1997. We are looking at an early car. It's a 1998 model year car. So both of these cars can be had in that price range, but they're going to be a little bit different for the floor. For a 986 Boxster, about the floor of where I would suggest you buy a car is around 10 grand. 10 grand, it's not going to get you an amazing car, but it generally should get a car that's palatable and usable with no fatal flaws in it. He being fatal, it's going to have things wrong with it. In the 914 world, you probably want to spend more like 15 to 18 is probably the floor. Now, both of these cars can be bought way cheaper than that. You can find 914s for $2,500 on Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace, all over North America.
Yeah, but that's the no man's land.
Same with the Boxster. Just don't go there. It's tempting. Don't go there. The other car you could put in that category would be one of what they call the transaxle cars. So here's a 944 turbo. You would want to generally have a normally aspirated car to be in that category. About the bottom of the market for a 944, the floor we'll call it, $10,000 or $12,000. Okay. Again, someone's going to comment on your video, oh, I bought one for $1,500.
Yeah.
I know you can.
Yeah, I know.
But you just don't want to go there.
It's always one of those things, just the same thing, a lot of these people know me from the gun world. There's a lot of, you can get some cheap guns, but it's either like, okay, well, you bought it from a sucker who didn't know what he had, or you bought a piece of shit, and then there's a reason why you paid so little.
That's almost always the case.
Which is almost always the case, because people just say, they're like, oh my God, it's a Porsche, and it's $2,500, and then you buy it, and it ends up being a huge mistake. Why don't we stick with these, and you kind of give me the pros and cons. First of all, mileage ceiling. Where am I stopping? Where am I? No more than X number of miles for each of these.
They're going to be different for the cars. So on the 914, mileage is absolutely immaterial. Doesn't matter.
Shut up.
Does not matter. Because the things that you're most worried about are generally not mechanical. They're rust, body integrity. So where you're spending your money on that car is body integrity, because of all the Porsches you're ever going to work on, the 914 has the cheapest parts to buy. And that's partly because of the connection with Volkswagen when they were built. The fact that the 914 community is actually wonderful people, but they're cheap. I'll even say that to their face. We're known to be cheap. I have a 914, and they're just not willing to pay kind of the Porsche tax. And so you'll find access to the parts are relatively affordable per Porsche.
That's surprising for me, yeah.
There are some parts that are very, very hard to come by for 914s, but for the most part, the support is good. And so what you want on that car is body integrity, because you can much more affordably deal with mechanical issues than you can with body and paint issues.
Interesting.
So that's why mileage, it's condition. I don't care what the mileage is.
Are these generally reliable engines?
They generally are.
So if I get one that's got 150,000 miles on it and it's been well maintained, I'm not worrying too much.
Yeah, because at this point, your newest 914 is knocking on 50 years old. So almost never will the engine be completely untouched.
Right.
I mean, that would be extraordinarily rare. This example happens to be that. That's an all-original car. It's never been touched. But most of them at some point, they're on engine number 2 or 3 in terms of a rebuild or what have you. So again, you want to be mid-teens or higher to really be in the 914 world. But again, the advantage I think they have is very classic, Porsche experience. These cars are not fast by any measure, but they're joyful to drive. And your butt sits about 4 inches off the pavement, and they handle really well. So I find them quite charming. And the other thing they don't have is they don't have anything that's catastrophically expensive to repair once you don't have an issue with body or rust, which is a problem on them. So, buy one from the West Coast.
Right.
One that's never had any major collision damage.
So I hear the emphasis clearly on body, rust, looking out for that. Are there any other issues that I need to look for if I'm looking for a 914?
So I don't get too verbose, which I'm known to be. Yes, there's lots to know about 914s. There's lots of information out there on them. But again, if you know nothing else, try to find one that has no major accident damage and no rust, and has its original engine, its original fuel injection system, and is mostly as close to how it was built as possible. But let's talk 944s.
Let's talk perfect
of course,
transition.
Okay, so these are what they call the transaxle cars.
What does transaxle mean?
So transaxle means that they're front engine, but the transmission is in the back. And so they have perfect 50-50 weight distribution. This was Porsche's entry-level model that came after the 914. It was introduced in 1977 as the 924. That was made from 1977 until 1982. In 1983, they introduced the 944, but the basic structure is the same. And then they made this car from 83 until 1990, 1991, I guess. But look at these box flares, the pop-up headlights. It's very 1980s.
I love the 944. I love it, love it, love it. I love everything about it. Again, being like a child of the 80s,
Yes.
product of the 90s, like I think that these are as cool as it gets. So what do I need to know? Let's talk about that mileage ceiling and the no man's land price.
Yeah. So real quick, I'll just mention the 924. I don't have a gripe with the car. My only issue with those cars is the market value is so low that you can't afford to maintain them and not get radically upside down. So it's not that there's something wrong with the car per se, it's just the math doesn't work. The 944s, while still not highly valuable, are worth at least enough that you're not gonna get too buried in it. So about 10 grand will get you an early, normally aspirated 944 that's been reasonably well cared for. The problem with inexpensive Porsches is that over time, as they've gone through owners 6, 7, 8, 9, they've gotten progressively cheaper. And there was a period of time these became $3,000 and $4,000 cars, but they're not inexpensive to maintain. So what happens is the people just stop maintaining them. The crazy part about these cars is they'll literally still run. Like you can get one of these cars that like literally every system on the car is not functioning correctly, but they still will start and run and drive down the road. That's almost the problem too, because then people just limp along until something nearly fatal, then they off it on Craigslist. You just want to avoid that car. So what you're looking for if you're buying an earlier 944 is there's kind of two owners out there left. There's that owner 9 who bought it on the pot lot for $2,200 that, shouldn't own the car. But every so often you'll still find that old guy who bought it new, or he's the second owner. He cherishes the car because of what a wonderful car it is, and he's spent the time and money to keep the car up. Still not inexpensive to own and operate. Of these three cars, generally the 944 is going to be the most expensive on a maintenance perspective.
Interesting. I thought you were going to say least. I thought you were about the next words
No,
coming out of
parts
your mouth
costs
were
are
gonna be least.
cheaper on the 914. They're a little easier to work on.
That blows my mind. Still.
The issue with the transaxle cars is these were firmly 100% in the Porsche category, and some parts are harder to come by, and oddly, a lot of the independent Porsche repair facilities don't like working on these. So it's harder to find a qualified person to work on them. And as a general rule, the newer in the generation, between 83 till 89, the later it is, generally, they're going to be a little bit better from a maintenance standpoint. You're probably going to be spending an average, if you're not doing it yourself, $2,000 or $3,000 a year on maintenance. Again, the hard part is sometimes people pay 10 grand and a $4,000 repair bill wipes them out.
What's my mileage ceiling on this?
So motors on these cars are incredibly robust. So it's more about where it is in the maintenance cycle. So these do have a timing belt. It's what they call an interference engine. So if the timing belt breaks, lights out. Particularly if you have a $10,000 one, it's a near total. So
Wait. Run that back to me. I want to hear that again. So if the timing belt goes out on this, the repair on the timing belt.
So the problem is when the belt actually breaks, the belt's not such a big deal, but what happens is the valves hit the pistons. So you're rebuilding the engine.
Oh my God.
So on these, doing your timing belt service is absolutely imperative because it's catastrophic if it were to break.
Wow.
So, for example, let's say I find one and it's showing 150,000 miles in the odometer, but I can see a whole service history over life, and the timing belt was done last year by someone who actually knows what the heck they're doing, and everything's been diligent. I'm not worried about that car at all. If I see one that's got 47,000 miles and I have no maintenance history whatsoever, well, then I know before I even drive it away, I'm doing a timing belt, water pump, major service, because I can't take the risk.
Interesting.
So maybe the one with the 150 is a better, because the motors themselves, as long as the timing belt doesn't break, you almost can't wear them out. Same with the transaxle. But clutch repair on this car is very, very expensive as an example.
Interesting. Okay.
So again, if I see when the time belt's done, the clutch was done 3 years ago, 10,000 miles ago, I'm kind of excited. So what you're looking for is evidence that someone actually liked the car. They didn't give up on it. So if you look through the history on the car and they've owned it for 5 years and they've spent, $412 on maintenance, run. So this is a first generation Boxster, an early car. And this car, I think, is really successful in basically saving Porsche. If we go back, I know you love the 993. So this came out at the very tail end of the 993 era. You could start buying this car in late 1996 here in the U.S. And it sold like hotcakes. They came on the market at $40,000.
Yeah, it was just at $40,000. Yeah.
993s at that time were 70 to 100, so they were about half the price of the 911. And they had like a 2-year wait list to get one of these cars, and they were very, very well received. But of course, what happens is when you have a lesser expensive, quote, Porsche, people have to denigrate it in some way. There's nothing to denigrate about this car. Like, I own some truly wonderful Porsches, I do. I'm very blessed, but this is my personal 986, and if I woke up tomorrow and someone said, you could only have one Porsche and it's this car, it wouldn't be a terrible day. Like, I love driving this car. It makes great noises. It's not fast, it's just right at 200 horsepower, but it sounds good, it shifts nice, it handles beautifully. It's got good storage capability. The air conditioning actually works well, way better than a 993.
Yeah, yeah.
And I actually think that the design is aging well. I think it's a very pretty car.
I think this is going to be vintageized. It's coming into its era.
I mean, it's already there.
Yeah.
You know, as an example, if you find a really low mileage, like 97, 98 silver red with, say, 10,000 miles, they're bringing $40,000 or $50,000. And again, about 10 grand will get you in one of these. Much below that, again, you can get them cheaper, is probably not where you want to go. The hardest part about these cars is that while you can buy one for 10, they are not inexpensive to own and operate. I'll give you a perfect example. This is my personal 986. I enjoy it. I call it my airport car. So this is the car I leave at the airport.
Sure.
It's low value. I go hiking. I leave it at a trailhead. It's very usable in that regard. The problem you run into is that the cost to own and operate it and repair it can sometimes stress your desire to keep it.
Right.
So just as a very fact, you and I worked out this morning, which is great fun. I was at that very same workout last week. I drove it from my home. I was driving it back. Everything was going good. I got pulled up to a light, and all of a sudden it turned to a rough idle and starts idling rough, and my check engine light comes on and starts flashing. And I knew. I was like, oh, this isn't good. Brought it back to the shop, put it on my scan tool, and lo and behold, I've got a short to ground Bank 2 VarioCam sensor. Which, there's a lot of possibilities of what causes
Those
that.
cam sensors get you every time.
A lot of reasons that cause that. Probably a $5,000 or $6,000 adventure.
I go out and I buy one for $12,000, $13,000, and then I've got to turn right back around and bring it in for a $4,000 repair.
Not necessarily, but you could.
Yeah.
And so, like, even me, like, I love this car. I'm having this debate because of the condition and the mileage of this car. It's about a $10,000 car. But again, this one I kind of like. It's nice enough. I'm proud to own it. I'm not embarrassed to drive it. But if I get a door ding in it or it gets dirty, it's just a car.
What's the color called, by the way? It's beautiful.
Ocean blue metallic.
It's
Yeah,
gorgeous.
a great
I was thinking
color.
it looked like the gentian blue
Yeah.
a little bit, like the newer ones. But yeah, it's a gorgeous car. Talk to me about mileage ceiling. What is it? Give me a number.
On these, mileage does matter because there are some things that come up. So generally, because of your budget, you're not going to get something with crazy low mileage because, of course, people love to obsess about mileage. But they're also not a super practical everyday car. So you'll find a lot of these cars are someone's third or fourth car. It's not hard to find one that's got 40,000 or 50,000 miles. Probably the sweet spot is 30 to 60 or 70 with a good history of maintenance. I will direct people to some of the buyer's guides that are out there because they may watch your video and say, well, this moron doesn't even know about the IMS bearing. I don't want to get into all those topics.
And you have a guide, I'm sure, on this.
There's a lot of guides on the Porsche Club of America channel.
Yeah, and that you did.
Because I don't tend to do the super, super technical. I can, but those are someone else's lane where the engineers will tear the whole engine apart and they'll actually, so I'll call some of those people out. There's a guy named Jake Raby does a great job with his series, Charles Navarro. You can see his content, Pedro Bonilla, Pedro's Garage. Those guys all do good content on these cars, and they'll get into the deep dive mechanical. But essentially, the biggest thing everyone will talk about on these cars is what's called the IMS bearing, intermediate shaft. Much like a timing belt braking on one of these cars, if the IMS bearing fails on this car, lights out.
That's it.
But what you want to find is a car, again, ideally has been loved by someone long term. They knew what they had. Like, I bought this car from a gentleman who owned it like 15 years, and I probably had $15,000 of the service records on the car because he liked the car.
Yeah.
Logically, he probably should have stopped spending money on it, but it made a good buy for me. So the 986, one of the ways they saved money making these cars is everything from the doors forward is shared with the 996 or the 911 period. Well, that also means that the cost to repair the Boxster, which was half the price it was new, is the same exact price it is to repair the similar 911. But the 911 is worth a lot more in the end. So let's say you had a 911 of this quality, a 996, it's probably worth $35,000. Well, if you have a $35,000 car, it's more palatable to spend $4,000.
Right.
If you have a $10,000 car,
and you're spending 40% of the value on a repair, and then something else could come down the road too.
And so that's one of the things when you talk about initial entry point isn't always your total ownership cost. So you might sometimes be better off spending more with a car that can absorb more service. And we have a 996 in the back we can talk about.
We're going to start a 501c3, and it's going to give out grants to people who buy, who spend $10,000 on a Boxster and need to get a $4,000. We'll subsidize your repairs. Nathan, I'm putting you on the spot. I know how you are. Pick one. Make one recommendation to the average viewer. Somebody wants to get into Porsche. They think all these are equally attractive. Pick one.
986. And here's why. Most people, they forget how far cars have come. And so this is a thoroughly modern car. You could use it as your everyday car. The air conditioning works as good as a modern car. It's got ABS, got airbags. It's reasonably comfortable. It's got plenty of storage. It's fuel efficient. The parts are readily available. It's an easy car to own and deal with. You've fully gone into the classic car ownership experience when you jump to either of these two cars, meaning that it's hard to find someone qualified who wants to work on these cars. Sometimes you'll be looking for a part and it's simply unavailable. There's no parts you can't find for this car. There's no Porsche mechanic who won't work on it. You know, if you're out in the middle of nowhere, North America, and it breaks, you can probably find someone within 50 miles who can handle it. You know, again, that's where you get to be a challenge. And so this, I think you have to be a little bit more of a diehard enthusiast, or my favorite kind of person who actually wants to learn and wants to work on themselves.
Oh, okay.
A real human being built this car. Another human being can learn to work on it. I promise. But many people don't want to do that in today's world. But that's your other way to get into an inexpensive Porsche is if you can service it yourself, your cost of ownership is staggeringly lower.
Thank you so much for allowing us in and for talking to us about this. I think this is a very important subject because I think it gets people more involved in the community, and it shows you, I mean, you blew my mind when you said, hey, you can get here in 2025 one of these cars for around $10,000 and it'll be like a decent vehicle. So thank you for taking the time. And guys, thank you for taking your time to watch us. Make sure if you're looking for any of these, first things first, check Porsche Club of America on YouTube. I bought my 993. I did it perfectly. Looking back, I've owned it for a little, like about a year and a half now. And looking back, I took Nathan's tips and I have no regrets. I did everything to the letter and I've got a wonderful car. So make sure you check Porsche Club of America. And if you are in the area, Pacific Northwest, I mean, who knows? This is plug your dealership name.
Yeah, so you can find me online, ColumbiaValleyLuxuryCars.com, CB Luxury Cars, my Instagram page under CBLC Porsche. I just love, again, just reach out to us. I love to talk Porsche. I love to help you find your next one. I also love to help people not buy cars. So I'm just as apt to say, God bless you. I know you're enthusiastic, but please keep looking.
Well, thank you very much, Nathan. Guys, thanks again for watching. Stay tuned because we're bringing you more from Porsche.